Hello everyone, my name is PyroTorb. I am a Diamond rank Torbjorn 1 trick, and these are my current stats this season. I have created an in-depth guide on Torbjorn for defense and attack. Here, I will cover tips and tricks on optimal ways of building turrets, examples of good turret positioning, proper use of Torb's Rivet Gun, as well as his armor packs. If you would like to skip to any section of the video, check the description below. Now to begin, I will explain some tips on building your turrets. A common problem I see some players do is just standing still while building turrets. Any widow can easily snipe you if you're caught standing still, so you're always better off strafing around your turret. Whether that's left and right movements or back and forth, I use a combination of both. All in, maybe slow, maybe fast, just to make it harder for your opponents to hit you. You can always use the objects near you to take cover from fire when building a turret around a corner. Usually I strafe back and forth for long corners. What many people don't realize is how forgiving Torb's hammer swing is. You can always check for flankers and for enemy pharaohs above when building your turret. Alright, so for our examples on attack and defense turrets, we will be using Route 66. Real quick, I will be showing off some turrets that some Torbs use at lower ranks. These turrets can build some quick ult charge early on, but they will not work or have as much value once you get into higher ranks. These turret spots can be easily destroyed and allow your enemy to charge in on you before you can build another turret. Personally, I always believe in building the strongest turret position possible before the fight starts, rather than risk for going for ult charge. I usually place my first turret up top and away from where the enemy spawn is. That way it covers the first choke and is harder to destroy. This turret spot usually works better when you have a shield of an Orisa or a Reinhardt. However, to get the most value of this turret, your team should be contesting the payload at the first choke. Once your first turret is broken, it is best to back up as far as possible to another choke and try not to rebuild another turret in the same spot. Because rebuilding another turret in the same spot only makes it way easier for the enemy team to destroy it, and you lose your surprise factor. When there is an enemy Pharah, you may find yourself putting turrets in hallway to be a better choice because of how lower to the ground she has to fly to shoot at the turret. However, this means other heroes have an easier time to destroy that turret, such as PyroSSBM. If you lost your first point, you should back up as far as possible to get back to your team. You could build a turret to shoot at this door. However, this turret can be very easily destroyed because of how open and long of a stretch this is. Similar to contesting the spawn, turrets usually do not last very long in a long open area like this. So backing up for another choke area, such as this turn over here, is much more ideal. As the enemy team approaches the second point, you should back up as much as possible so that your turret can cover more and it won't be as easily destroyed, but also acts as more of a distraction. Now onto the final point. Here are some turrets that are used in lower ranks. For me, they are too exposed and you won't get too much value out of them. Even if they are on higher ground and cover a lot of area, they don't cover any chokes or flanks. A controversial turret is the turret on the floating platforms. The idea is great because it is a moving turret. However, most of the time these turrets will not be part of the action. It does not shoot the payload when on the health pack side and could cost you a team fight. This turret is very niche and isn't very consistent. My favorite turrets for the final point is to the back far left or far right. My final turret is usually far left because it shoots at enemies just as they cross the final bend, and it has some protection by the pillar to its left. The best thing about Torb turrets at the final point is that they go uncontested during overtime. The farther from the payload they can be, the more effective the turret will be. Now onto the infamous attack Torb. Do note, playing Torb on attack isn't always the best idea. In many other situations, other heroes can do what Torb does better. However, if you're a daredevil like me and don't mind getting flamed by your teammates, who later applaud you and say they got carried by a Torb, then carry on. So in the beginning, I like to place a turret up front just in case anyone is dumb enough to contest outside your spawn. Sometimes this turret will shoot a venom mine, junkrat trap, protecting your team from any cheesy deaths. My next turret is on top of the payload. Usually I try to call for an Orisa or Winston or Reinhardt to bubble or shield this area so that we can get around the first choke a lot more easier. I find this choke to be the hardest because the enemy team usually holds up top and has better positioning in the beginning. Your turret may die a lot, but that's why you get some picks with your Rivet Gun. Placing your turret away from the payload can also be a good idea once the payload has moved along more from the choke. If your turret gets destroyed while on the payload, do not rebuild it back on the payload. Right there was a spot where I used the high ground rocks and crouching for protection. Once the payload has reached this bend, I like to place my turret above and behind so it can cover the most it can during the final stretch of the point. Again, overtime turrets are the best turrets. From this position, both me and the turret can shoot at anyone coming to contest through the upper valley and the bottom hallway. Once reaching the checkpoint, I place my turret back on the payload and ask my team for any potential shields. At this point, I may have Molten Core to help push the team through this slow and long path. If your turret gets destroyed on the payload, you have to come up with turret positions based off where the enemy team is and how far away they're contesting from. Here at the choke, I used this turret and built it using the walls for cover fire. Finding good positions for attack turrets comes over time and you learn them along the way. There isn't any perfect turret spots, and you may find some awesome flank spots like this turret where it shoots the enemy as they come out those hallways, but even this turret isn't 100% guaranteed to work. For the final point, it is just rinse and repeat. Build onto the payload first, poke at enemies while the door opens, and using objects as the payload itself as cover fire. You could use the floating platform on this map, but it takes time to set up, and I usually only use it if I have Molten Core and I want to shoot enemies from behind who are standing behind shields. However, I like to keep my turrets behind so that they can protect my supports, but still fire at anyone contesting the payload. While it is amazing that your play of the game was performed from the grave, you should also be using your Rivet Gun to its fullest potential. Put it simply, you are a McCree from afar, but a Reaper up close. Rivet Gun is hugely underestimated, and anyone daring to 1v1 a good Torb is in for a surprise. With your left click doing 70 damage, 140 damage if it is a headshot, and it has no fall off, while your right click does 150 damage max up close. With 18 ammo, you can fire 6 right clicks and 18 left clicks. Left click does not shoot straight and has an arc that over time you'll learn how much it curves. Getting used to how high up you have to aim is essential to landing headshots. Personally, I made a custom reticle helping me aim roughly where the pellet will arc for a headshot, by aiming the crosshair just above the head. This crosshair works up to 40 meters. If I'm under 10 meters, I typically use right click for a quick elim. Here's an example of my reticle settings, however, you should use what you are most comfortable with.
Too close. Are you ready? Show them what you can do. Thank you.
Helden sterben nicht.
Double kill.
Armour here. Protect my turret.
Double kill. Thank you.
Thank you. My arrow
Double kill.
Stay out of my way! Let's go! Armor over here!
Torbjorn's armor packs are extremely helpful and could change the outcome of any fight. By giving a teammate or yourself an armor pack, you increase their armor by 75. Armor reduces the incoming damage by half but does not regenerate. Torbjorn can create armor packs by gathering scrap left by a dead ally, enemy, or turret. He can only carry up to 200 scrap, therefore 5 armor packs at max. On defense, you should prioritize giving armor to your supports, then DPS squishies like yourself, and then lastly tanks. You will get a lot more value of your armor with your supports and should tell your teammates playing tank to not pick up armor. On attack, you can be a bit more greedy and keep armor packs for yourself because you might have to use armor as an escape tool. Knowing how to throw armor and calling out teammates to pick up armor can really help your efficiency with your armor. As always, be careful not to extend when picking up scrap. Either way, you generate a little bit of scrap over time. Lastly, I would like to thank the friendly Ryan who helped me in recording the gameplay, all the players who support me on my road to Masters, and all the awesome Torp one tricks out there. You can follow me at twitch.tv/PyroSSBM if you would like to watch me play Attack Torp live, or you can join in on some other games. Also, huge shout out to Best Torp in A, or Desro Fighting. He is an awesome streamer and has some of the best Torp guides on YouTube. I'll post links of his Twitch channel and his YouTube channel in the description below. Thank you for watching.